Golf simulator season is upon us. As the weather shifts here from summer to fall, it's time to get started thinking about your winter plans. And on today's video, I wanted to cover 7 mistakes to avoid if you're looking to build your dream golf simulator, something like what's behind me here. This has been an absolute joy for me to be able to play golf whenever I want, no matter the weather, the conditions, the time of day. If I want to come in here at 2 a.m. and hit balls, I can do that. And I can't do that on a golf course, on a driving range, that sort of thing. It's amazing to have this. It's literally a dream come true for me. So let's start off here with mistake number 1, and that is going to be getting the wrong launch monitor. I've put together many guides over the years, and so I'm going to link a couple videos here and down in the description to help you choose. But there's so many options, there's so many things to think about that you can really be overwhelmed. And one thing to remember is that room setup and construction plays a big role on which launch monitor is going to work for you. For instance, if you're going to have a Doppler device, those things are a little bit cheaper, but they also require more space because they have to sit behind you. So in those cases, you have to have a room that's at least 16 feet long. Again, the construction of the room itself makes a difference, because if you're in a garage, for instance, that has a lot of concrete, might have a lot of metal shelving, something like that, again, that's going to interfere with a Doppler device. You're not going to get accurate readings from it. So in those cases, you're going to have to look for an optical device. And the biggest thing I would say here is do not cheap out on it. Don't buy a launch monitor just because it's on sale or because you think that's all you can afford right now. It would actually be better to save up and buy a better launch monitor, because accuracy gains like that are going to pay dividends for a long time to come, and it's really going to add to the enjoyment of your sim room. The second mistake to avoid here is to not cheap out on your enclosure. I actually made this mistake myself. I wanted to save a few bucks, and instead of buying a pre-built enclosure, I tried to do it myself. It was a fun process. I learned a lot. I learned how to cut pipes. I learned how to engineer it to the wall so it hopefully wouldn't fall over. But in the end, the product worked. It just wasn't a great solution. I didn't have top protection. I didn't have side protection. And in the end, I ended up spending, between buying the screen itself, buying all the materials for the build, I ended up spending about what it would have cost me to get a pre-built DIY enclosure that's very easy to install. And if you're looking for a recommendation, by the way, highly recommend you go over to our partner playbetter.com, who supports this channel. They have some amazing DIY enclosure options that are very simple. They just snap together. There's really no tools required. It's a very nice looking package when you're done, something you can be proud of, and something that looks a lot better than a lot of the DIY things I've seen, and something that's going to protect you as well, because in my DIY enclosure, for instance, I had exposed piping, and a couple times my kids actually hit those pipes and that ball came flying back. It's a very dangerous situation. So do yourself a favor, don't cheap out on the enclosure. Look for something like what PlayBetter offers here. It's going to be well worth the investment, I promise you. Now, speaking of not cheaping out, our third mistake to avoid has to do with cheaping out on a mat. This is one that so many people I see on the forums and in the comment sections. They want to spend the least amount of money on a mat possible. And let me warn you that if you were to buy a $50 mat on Amazon, yes, it's cheap, but in the end, it's going to cost you in terms of paying for your medical bills, because the injuries that can be caused by not having enough protection. You need a couple of inches of thicker foam, and the high quality mats are going to provide those. Again, I'm going to leave some links down below so you can see what a high quality mat looks like. It's a couple $100s more, but it is well worth it. Let me tell you, those injuries will last a lifetime, and it's very easy to prevent them by simply not cheaping out on a mat. And another solution, by the way, you don't have to buy the entire mat. You can literally get a hitting strip, because after you hit so many shots, it's going to wear out anyways. You can drop it right into your existing setup. It works like a charm. The next mistake on our list that a lot of people make is they don't take into account the subscription cost or the carrying cost of having one of these launch monitors. There are very few launch monitors on the market right now that have no subscription at all. The Mevo Plus is one of those, but there are not very many. And that's because you're getting access to very expensive technology, and what they're doing is they're basically amortizing that over the time that you own it. So rather than you paying $10,000, $20,000 for a launch monitor, you can get a $3,000 launch monitor, but you're gonna have a $300 or a $500 a year subscription. It's something you've got to think about. You've got to do the math and make sure that it will fit in your budget long term, or else you're gonna have a very expensive brick sitting in your simulator studio. And the other thing is, if you want to have access to a third party third-party systems, something like GS Pro, something like E6. Their new Apex software is amazing, by the way. Those are going to be additional subscriptions so that you can play simulator golf and have access to some of these courses around the world. Even if you have something like I have, a Bushnell Launch Pro, FSX Play only comes bundled with, I think, 10 or 20 courses. And if you get tired of those 20 courses, you're going to want a third party. So again, take that into consideration before you purchase. Think about the long-term costs of this thing. The next mistake on my list is not buying the right projector for your room. There are many great affordable projectors out there, but what you have to think about is that every projector has a specific calculation in terms of throw distance and what can be in focus. And when I mean throw distance, I mean how far is that projector going to sit either above you or to the side of you and hit the screen and fill up your entire screen. Luckily, there is a free calculator online over at projectorcentral.com. You can check out that website or Google that website, and you can literally enter any model number, give it the dimension of the screen that you intend on building, and it will tell you how far that projector needs to sit back in order to fill up the screen. There's nothing worse, and there's nothing that looks lower rent than having big black bars on the top and the bottom or the sides because you can't fill the screen with the projected image because there's no room for it where it needs to be. Now, one other caveat here, there is a big price gap between 1080p or high definition projectors and 4K projectors. I will let you know that I have simply an HD projector myself. I don't even have a 4K projector. Many softwares still run a lot slower when you're trying to project 4K anyways, and so it's better to run them in high definition. I think you'll be able to find a nice quality HD projector. It's going to serve you well for a lot of years. You can always upgrade to a 4K projector later if you want that super crisp image, but there's a way you can save a little bit of money, but again, make sure it's going to fit and fill up your entire screen. The sixth mistake here on my list is to not plan for errant shots. Errant shots are going to happen. This is golf after all. And even if you are a scratch golfer and you never hit a bad shot, you're probably going to have a friend or a family member that comes into your sim studio and hits a shank from time to time. Make sure that your launch monitor is protected, especially if it's one of those that sits to the side of you, like a Skytrack, a Bushnell, a GC Quad, that sort of thing. There are cages that you can buy, again, at our partner playbetter.com to protect your very expensive investment. And I promise you're going to be happy if you do. Now, it's not just the launch monitor that needs to be protected. I see so many images of people's sim room setups online, and they don't have proper netting, or what I have here, I have big, thick drapes to the side of the screen. Again, errant shots will go right, they will go left. They will make big dents in your walls and in your ceiling if they're not properly protected. So again, make sure you've got an enclosure that has the ceiling. Make sure you've got side netting. Those kits over at playbetter.com provide all of that stuff out of the box, including the side netting, and again, I highly, highly recommend them, but just make sure you are protected. The last one on our list is to not think that you have to do everything all at once. You do not have to start out by building your dream golf simulator. In fact, if you've kept up with this channel, you know I built this room and I have, over the years, added on to it, improved it, tweaked it. These simulator rooms are always a work in progress, and that is really half the fun. So always make sure to enjoy what you have and just know down the road it can always get better. Now, those are my 7 mistakes to avoid, but I'm sure some seasoned golf simulator folks out there can leave some comments and let me know the mistakes that you think should be on this list. I would love to hear them. I'd love to start a discussion down there. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you back here next time on another edition of Let's Play Through.